Hello again, my friends, and welcome to the penultimate episode of Season 1 of Last Newsdesk on the Left. I am your host, Mac Paladin, and the usual suspects are here, so let's get to those introductions. Adam?
Hello.
Kevin's here.
Like George in the flu game, I am here off my second dose of Moderna. So I'm a little bit off my game this week, but see how we can go roll with it.
Patty Fan.
I exist.
The Galax.
Hi.
And of course, we've got Twilight Winter. Sound off.
Got my second shot as well, but so far been fine.
Cool.
Hope it holds up.
So as you can see from the graphic, we've got Georgia on our mind, and I've got a surprisingly low amount of cat barf in my shoes right now. Since it's been at least a week since we've all been in the same virtual room together, let's get to the news. Adam, what's cooking?
Well, I mean, as the borrowed song title might infer, we got to go back to Georgia.
Hi, how you doing? My state, yep.
Place near and dear to Kevin's heart.
Yeah, well, it both is and isn't.
Not to be confused.
Well,
Not to be confused with the comedian of the same name.
Yeah. well, given that this is Kevin's state, we should probably have Kevin outline what's going on there, because things have heated up.
Yeah, well, first of all, where do you want to start? I think it's the first question.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I think we've talked about SB 202 and the voting rights legislation that passed here. I think it's about a couple of weeks ago now, in the
Right.
shadow of a bit of severe weather, by the way, which was really, really weird. But it has heated up a lot because Major League Baseball this past week, for whatever reason, we don't really know at this point, pulled the All-Star Game, which is a pretty big economic driver of probably anywhere in the range of $50 million to $100 million from Atlanta over that law. Now, this is in spite of the fact that, boycotting the state on a business sense is not really something that the people here are promoting or wanting, but unfortunately, this is starting to become a bit of a runaway train because now all of the companies like Delta and Coca-Cola and other companies that probably helped write this legislation in the first place to not be as bad as it was in its initial draft, have now come out in full force against these laws. And the governor of the state, Mr. Brian Kemp, that guy, is out here trumpeting and flying the flag of cancel culture, despite the fact that it's not really cancel culture, but whatever. I'm sick of that term.
Yeah.
And he's out here promoting this law and saying that it's not really that bad because of the stuff they did to water it down. And I think everybody's now realizing that, yeah, you can't water down something that's built off of the big lie. And in fact, the Republican lieutenant governor of the state, Jeff Duncan, I think is his name, came out the other day and said, yeah, this law was pretty much built off of the big lie that Georgia was there was cheating, there was whatever going on in this state that let it become blue for the first time since 1990. I think it was it 92 or 96? I forgot. I gotta keep it straight. Basically...
Since they were conservative Democrats.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
The old Blue Dogs.
Yes. Yeah, well, actually, probably not Blue Dogs, a little bit more conservative than even that.
Dixiecrat.
In between. In between.
The alt-left.
Yeah, that's too much. But,
I don't know.
but
I
anyway,
was trying to come up with some funny term for it.
But yeah, point of order is that, the SB 202 has become the big overall thing here, and it's now ricochet to all of the other states that are going out and passing laws, and so yeah. And well, he's trying to do it to get into the good graces of Trumpkins, even though Trump himself pretty much went out there and said it's still weak because of what they did to water it down. So
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't
I
it didn't specifically overturn the federal election, so it's always going to be weak.
yes, exactly.
Well, so about that, so HB 202, like a lot's been made about the shutting down of ballot boxes and the banning of water, all that stuff. But the most dangerous part of this law hasn't gone all that reported, and that is stripping local officials and indeed the Secretary of State of their power.
Yep.
And apparently opening up the board, as it were, to frivolous lawsuits.
Yep.
See, I can kind of see the legal basis for making it illegal to give things to people waiting in line to vote. But I think that's taking it like ad absurdum. If you can't give water. Because the principle is based on the whole thing of like you can't give stuff outside of an election place to try to sway people's opinions.
Yeah, and also in terms of the whole stripping power away, it's that's the trick about it, and all is that those provisions are deep within the law to the point where you have to actually read deep into it in order to get there. And the overall law itself, is written in such a way that doesn't make it seem like it's, as antagonistic as it is, because, that's the trick with Jim Crow laws, even back in the day, as it were. It's that it's written in a race-neutral way. It's written in a way that makes you think, oh, these actually sound quite, these sound reasonable, and then when in practice, it turns out it's absolutely horrifically racist.
Yeah, so this is where having an administration who knows what this is and is not afraid to call it what it is helpful.
Yeah, and it's also a good thing that there's an opposition here in this state that also understands what this law actually is, and isn't listening to the people who are both, number one, not from the state, and number two, have never had to deal with the Jim Crow system, going around and saying, well, you're overreacting, you're overdoing it here. It's like, no. You've never dealt with the Jim Crow system. You're also probably likely not from the state. Anybody who's not from the state and has not had to deal with Jim Crow has to be quiet. Either that or actually listen to the people who do who do have to deal with the system and who do have to deal with stuff like this, because frankly they know better than you. And probably for some of you were actually fine and dandy with laws of this nature until it started to become a problem because people were actually starting to pay attention.
Well, now a lot of attention's being paid.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's because
a lot of attention is being paid to it now, but of course for a long time it wasn't really. Because this kind of stuff has been going on for a while. It's just the big lie has just accelerated things and brought things full circle,
Well, it's also the post-Trump Republican Party is quite feckless.
Yes. Yes.
Because, ordinarily they would have been able to sell this shit, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
But, they just haven't come up with resounding justifications because, it's pure doublethink at this point. Because on the one hand, they keep saying the 2020 election was safe and secure. but on the other hand, they're saying, we got to do this for the sake of election integrity. They're saying all the state officials did their fucking jobs, and yet at the same time they feel that they must be punished.
Well, see, it's funny. You can actually have integrity mean more than one thing.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is, Republicans don't really have integrity here. They haven't really bothered to hide their intention. Especially since, keep in mind, the election, the insurrection, these are only still months old. You're not fooling anyone. It's like, honestly, the people who are saying not that bad, I don't think they're arguing in good faith, quite frankly.
No, they're not.
Yeah. So, and as I said last week, what we're seeing in Georgia right now is basically a rerun of what we saw in North Carolina, 4 years ago?
Pretty much, yeah.
So, yeah, there's going to be economic pain.
Over time, probably. I mean, we'll see. I mean, this is, just, starting up, but, we'll see.
Right. We'll see. Like, they just taken the All-Star game, which is like, what, 50 million in local revenue?
Yeah, it was 50 million the last time they were here, but that was in 2000. I think it would probably be more in the range of 80 to 110 million.
Yeah, so
yeah,
pain is coming.
Yeah.
I don't think that's out of the equation. Anyway, but that also brings...
Although, to be quite frank, it's not something that people in this state want. So keep that in mind. Well,
it's like, well, once again, like we're talking about organizations who aren't just of that state.
Yeah.
Plus, I do think you need to do this because it's not just they should have stood up beforehand. This is not going on only in Georgia. This is going on in there are
state after state.
43 state houses that are trying to advance shit like this of one form or another.
I think it's more 34, 35. I think it's in the 30s, not the 40s, but I could be wrong on that. But it's still like pretty much half the country. So
yeah, it's still, there's a lot of this fuckery going on, and Congress is moving at the speed of Congress. More on them later. So somebody has to step up.
Yeah. Although, quite frankly, I kind of feel like you should probably say forget it to get anything voting rights related out of Congress.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna start putting my money down on that. You're not getting a damn thing, and basically you're on your own. Stupid.
Manchin is being Manchin. Like, he either acquiesces or he is done. That's his options.
I mean, I'm just saying that maybe that this is probably going to be something that the line is probably going to be held on, but we'll see. We'll see.
Well, it's like several groups have said the line in the sand's voting rights. You will, you will not pull the filibuster nonsense. And it's not just him. Cinema put out a fucking op-ed about the filibuster as well. Like I said,
look, they believe in what they believe in, and unfortunately, people outside of their state are not going to tell them what to do. It's unfortunate, but
well, they will suffer the consequences of their actions then, or inactions. Period.
Yep. I mean, I'm not just on that front. I'm just letting you know.
I know, I know, but it's like, they will have to fucking justify putting the filibuster above voting rights, above, noting, putting their fucking fellow Democratic senators at fucking risk.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
it's interesting. It's interesting that they would choose that hill to die on, considering the fact that the electorate has made it quite. They put it in no uncertain terms that the filibuster is a act of domestic terrorism, and that it is
well, I mean, unfortunately,
no longer.
States.
Well, and they've also made the point. Opponents of the filibuster have made the point that voting rights and democracy are intrinsically tied to whether or not the filibuster continues to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that if this is the hill that they choose to die on...
They unfortunately somehow believe that the filibuster somehow leads to bipartisan actions, when we know for a fact that has never, ever, ever, ever been the case.
Right.
Anyway.
And there's that... But, yeah, go on.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. But we knew the fight for the filibuster was really going to be on voting.
I guess you could make a weak case that the filibuster leads to a reduction of highly partisan actions succeeding, but not much.
Yeah.
Anyway, before we go down this train, there is new fuckery that, well, honestly, has been developing over the course of a few months now, but we haven't really talked about until now, and that is the anti-trans stuff that's working its way through the states. Now,
transphobia is the thing with the right and the Republicans now, because they can't attack gay marriage anymore. They lost that battle, so there's only one battle left, and that's the trans battle. And unfortunately, transphobia is still pretty much able to get through things because, there's always been a problem with the T in LGBT dating all the way back to the beginning of the movement.
Well, and these conservative people, especially religious ones, get very heavy on the everything should be as God created it, yada yada.
This goes back to our discussions on the whole idea that the alphabet mafia is not a monolith, and that there has always been a problem, especially with the G in LGBT.
Right, but this isn't what that's about. This is same old shit. This is the religious right coming out to promote hate because they hate, all the LGBTQ people. So, and let's get into the specificity of what's going on, because Arkansas has just passed a anti-trans care law. And it's worth noting that this was actually over the objections of the governor.
Yeah, Hutchinson actually vetoed it, and then they overrode his veto.
They overrode his veto because it requires a simple majority, and they unfortunately got more than a simple majority because transphobia is a new pillar of the Republican Party.
Wait, what? What's the point of having a veto if it can be overridden with a simple majority? That implies that the previous pre-veto vote required less than a majority.
No.
No, the vote itself required a majority, and the override requires a simple majority.
So the idea of the veto is relying on people's opinion being changed by the fact that it was vetoed?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's fucking stupid.
Yeah, but it's Republicans. Yeah.
It's also I should also note that it is my roommate's former homeland.
Well. Yeah, and
this is on former.
Yeah. It's Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, I really can't apply any other descriptor beyond that.
It's specifically Arkansas in the 21st century.
It's like when I lived in Alabama, we just said it's Alabama.
Yeah, let's remember this is the state that brought you William Jefferson Clinton. So It's not like Arkansas has been bad the whole time. It's been pretty much bad since the 21st century when it flipped completely red and has gotten redder and redder and redder and redder and redder.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to express ambivalence towards the WJC thing.
Yeah, but once again, this is also not just about Arkansas, because it's not just Arkansas pulling this bullshit, or at least planning to. Because once again, versions of this are being processed through many states, including states that aren't under Republican control. Like North Carolina has an even more extreme version of this bill that would
it would basically require state employees to write to their parents, hey, your kid's not acting like the gender that he was assigned at birth or she was assigned at birth. Might be trans.
Yeah.
Hope you get your son and get your daughter off of this, or else we might do some things.
That and the stuff about the hormone therapy stuff is a bigger issue than it might seem, because some of that stuff is most effective.
Yeah,
it's particularly
it's done, early.
It's particularly egregious in the Arkansas bill because of the fact that they specifically worded it as such that it was as if
they call it child experimentation.
Yeah, that's the part that really just just fucks me up. I'm just like, are you fucking serious?
Been experimented. They know what they're doing.
Look, as I said at the top here, this is basically them taking the same fights, the same arguments, the same whatevers they did when they were fighting against marriage equality and same-sex marriage for those many decades, and simply carrying it into a battle and then turning it up to 11 with trans people. And unfortunately, because of the fact that trans people until relatively recently have never been respected even within the LGBT community itself. It's easier to exploit. Now, thankfully, we do have people and groups willing to step up to the plate here. So hopefully, that'll lead to us coming at the end of this eventually down the line in a better place.
I don't think these things are going to fail. I mean, just from okay, let me finish.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Just from a law perspective, they're pretty bad because they're defining youth as 21 and under. And that's like 18 to 21, they're still adults.
Yep.
So that could, it could just, these things could go down on a technicality like that. Just keep that, and this is actually important because the reason and the rationale for why these bills might go down is important. Because, if they get struck down because of the overage provision, let's say, versus, the more humanitarian reasons, then you will see these things just rewritten to 17 and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, they'll do it too. They'll do it too.
Oh, no doubt. So, and keep in mind also, both in the case of the Georgia stuff and the Arkansas stuff, lawsuits are going to be filed or will be filed and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be sent right to the courts in a nanosecond, guaranteed.
Right. And
there's 5 lawsuits. Last I checked, 5 lawsuits of the Georgia thing. So yeah, there will be lawsuits.
Yes. Now, as far as their outcomes, well, we have to see how that fucking plays out, don't we?
Yeah. That's why I'd say that it might take a long time, because maybe you get some wins, but maybe you also get some losses, and some states might be able to hold these laws together. And So
That's why, as we keep reminding people, the Supreme Court does matter.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind right now that the conservatives have a 6-3 majority, so
Yep.
it's not just we need Clarence Thomas to not be a factor anymore. We would also need, say, Alito to not be a factor anymore.
we
Not
also need
necessarily
Rob.
dead, because
We need Robert.
Or for like at least one of the fucking conservatives on the court to say, "Oh wait, we're supposed to like small government, right?"
Yeah, that too.
I found some of the decisions of Kavanaugh and Gorsuch to be rather unusual, given what we expected of them. They have not been pure partisans.
Yeah,
Yeah, honestly, unbalanced, the worst conservatives are fucking Thomas and Alito.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
especially fucking
Barrett-
Clarence Thomas.
I mean, Barrett could easily get back into that mix though, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's why I didn't put her. Yeah, that's why I didn't put her on the list.
Yeah,
What?
Yeah.
Kavanaugh and Gorsuch have basically gone back and forth and joining Roberts and the liberals and things, and but you can't always put your hat on that.
Right. That's why.
No.
That's why I said that's why I said they're unusual. Is because there's not an adequate descriptor for the schizophrenic nature of the way they vote. It's not on partisan lines. It's like it's
Probably just in the way you argue some of these cases.
part of it is part of it is the bro code as to how you argue the case, and the other part of it is that they have actually made some both interesting and baffling arguments purely on case law.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that one write-up by Kavanaugh was a little strange. And everybody was like, I think he misunderstands the law, to put it nicely, but, it is what it is. So it's like this rubber stamp court that the Republicans were expecting did not exactly turn out the way they were hoping. I don't think.
I mean, we still have the ACA case that's still out there, and that's probably going to be the biggest test of this, because...
By the way, what was the thing that happened with the college sports thing that they were apparently having hearings about? Did anything actually happen with that?
The oral arguments happened, but that could be a case of both sides getting something out of it. Because
No, I was just curious because I remembered hearing that the conservatives on the court were surprisingly critical of some of the.
Yeah, they were, but they were also like, if we actually go all the way with this, it could lead to other industries following suit, and we can't have that. It's probably going to be a very limited or very mixed decision, if anything.
Well, maybe they can slip some of the conservatives a copy of the Federalist Papers, and they can actually read what the founding fathers intended for the Constitution.
Well.
Instead of assuming that they know what being an original constructionist means.
Mm-hmm.
Because clearly ACB has no fucking clue.
Yeah.
Lest she make any more arguments that, she lose her job because she returns to being effectively property.
Yeah. Anyhow.
That kind of thing. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking.
Sorry for the side tangent.
I mean, that was kind of. I mean, it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Anyway, speaking of the courts, they've been busy this week. The first George Floyd murder trial is in day 7?
I believe it's 7, yes.
And if nothing else, the prosecution is actually prosecuting.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, if this ends up the way that other situations like this has ended up, it's not going to be about the prosecution having a bad case. I mean, they're doing everything they have to do here.
Well, that's the thing, though. A lot of the time, the defense in these cases, when they win not on
Yeah.
a bad or whatever was a bad thing didn't happen. They win on whatever was a bad thing that happened wasn't actually a bad thing, you see. That's the way things are supposed to go.
Well, actually, it's more like they buy the argument that, you know, the cop or wannabe cop was actually threatened, and they buy into that and buy into the sob story that they put forward rather than the actual truth. Well, and sometimes it has to do
It still
with
amounts to what happened was fine, actually.
it's not exactly that. It's more like, you know, I felt threatened, my life was in danger, yada yada yada, and you know, at least one juror, and that's an important thing to note here. It only takes one juror to cause a mistrial. So, let's keep that in mind here as we follow this, because it only takes one juror on that jury to buy the defense's argument and to hold out.
Mistrials then get retried, don't they?
I mean, probably, but I mean, the fact that it wouldn't get a verdict the first time would probably not go over well, regardless. But yeah, I think if there was a mistrial, they probably would retry it. But look, but yeah, I mean, the prosecution is doing what it has to do, and it's doing far better than probably other prosecutions of this, you know, kind of this variety. So I mean, we'll see if the defense does enough to convince at least one juror on that jury to, you know, to buy the garbage that's coming out of the defense, and if one does, that's it.
Well, would it actually be a mistrial, or would it be a deadlocked jury? Because that's a different thing. A mistrial would be actual malfeasance on the part of one of the litigators. And if there is a mistrial declared, there's a very high probability that they can apply double jeopardy and not be allowed to retry the case. So that's why I want to make sure that we...
well, whatever's going to happen if one juror holds out, or two jurors hold out all the way.
Yeah, if you
so
have...
we'll see what the definition is.
That's not a mistrial, though. That's a deadlocked jury.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I keep thinking that the judge is calling a mistrial after that, but yeah, I think it's going to be... Yeah, I think it's either going to be a verdict of guilt, a verdict of innocence, or deadlock jury, and we try again.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's Kira just sent me a message saying that a mistrial is usually declared when the judge feels that there is a significant procedural error on the part of one of the litigants.
Specifically,
okay.
What?
Yeah.
The second half of that is specifically for the United States.
Right. Well, we're talking about the Chauvin trial.
Yeah.
So, like, if you try to introduce new evidence in the middle of a trial and you're not in fucking Phoenix Right, there's probably been a procedural error that will get you mistried.
Yeah.
Yeah, or if you try to manufacture evidence in the middle of the trial.
That too, yes.
If you start making up testimony and then putting a question mark at the end of it, that can cause problems. Jury nullification can cause a mistrial, which would also bring legal proceedings against the litigator.
Right.
So I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure we're not. This is one of those things to where a lot of people watch Law and Order and think that they know what everything means.
A lot of people are kind of new to this court thing, so yeah. It's good to get that, you know, clear and straight.
Yeah. Yeah. If a case is dismissed on a mistrial, though, there is a very high probability that they cannot retry the case, because that's like the sorry counselor, you don't get unlimited chances.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I meant on a hung jury anyway, but whatever.
That's it.
That's the word. That's the word I'm looking for.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hung jury, yes.
Not deadlock jury. Hung jury is the thing that I'm looking for. Yeah.
Well, if they deadlock, then it becomes a hung jury. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a sequence of events there.
Right. But yeah, the term I'm looking for is hung jury. That's right. So yeah, it'll either be guilt, innocence, or hung. One of those three.
Right. Possibly more on that next week.
Yeah. Or
Not
if
the
the
only
week-
high.
Or
Yeah.
probably more likely next season.
Yeah.
Because the
Probably.
make their case. So
Yeah.
Anyway,
Next week we'll be talking about how my cat's going to get neutered for not shutting the hell up. He just whined balefully when I said neutered. He went,
yeah. Oh no, I don't want that to happen to me. No.
"Don't take my jewels away." Well, then stop peeing in the window.
Let me do what I want.
Except when I can't.
Anyhow.
I put up a TikTok video the other day of Tippy sitting on the inside of the glass, and Mama Kitty with the babies were sitting on the outside of the glass, and so they were having a family meeting. Because we're pretty sure that Mama Kitty is Tippy's mom.
anyhow, not the only high-profile trial that's going on this week. Over to New York, where the NRA is going through its bankruptcy proceedings.
That's going to go well for them.
Yeah, it's not been going well.
No.
Not been going well at all for the NRA, at least from what I've been reading. It's like apparently
Something about a recurring legal fees line item in the budget labeled Russia.
That's what came out today. I think yesterday it was the revelation because renowned Muppet Wayne LaPierre has been on the stand yesterday and today. He gave us the tale of the only place he felt safe from would-be shooters, and that is on a friend's fucking private yacht.
Yeah, he felt so scared of all the mass shootings that were going on that the place he felt comfortable was on a freaking yacht. This is the man who could have easily, not led to a situation where the culture was violent, and the culture is what it is, but he decided, and his organization decided, after a dozen elementary school children were murdered in cold blood, to go up there and state, for the record, for everybody to hear, on camera, into a microphone, that the only response to a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun, opening the door to the Wild West.
Fuck, the Wild West actually had gun control.
Yeah.
I think
you know what I mean? It's like a free-for-all.
I think the most interesting thing about him saying that the only place he felt safe was being on a yacht aren't yachts like one of the highest causes of death for members of organized crime?
I mean,
if there's no body, there's no crime. But I'm just saying.
I thought you were going towards something about the fucking ridiculous mortality rate of cruise ships.
I'm
just saying a lot of mafiosos. I'm just saying a lot of people disappear on boats.
I mean, we did have a scene of a murder on a yacht in The Sopranos, so
Well,
I mean, isn't that how they got big pussy?
Yeah, that one. So I mean, so yeah, make of that what you will.
Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
Okay, so here's how not well it went for Wayne LaPierre today. At time of recording, or this might have been yesterday. Anyway, here's how it. He had to admit that he did not inform several senior NRA officials that he would file for his bankruptcy petition before he did so, including a board member who
filing for bankruptcy without telling the people on the board. That not a good look.
including a board member who would have been his successor. LaPierre also testified that he did not inform board members about the establishment of a company, Seagrit LLC, which he formed in Texas for the purposes of filing for bankruptcy here.
Wait, Secret LLC?
Seagrit LLC.
It sounds exactly like Secret.
Yes.
Oh my god. Wow.
Lord.
I'm like, describe.
That's when you say secret, you're like, wait, what? And then you're like, it sounds like secret. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Described by regulators as a shell company, Seagrit
Ah,
had
there you go.
assets exceeding its debts at the time.
Oh no.
So,
Okay, baby.
let's see. Asked whether the NRA chief offered to pay the Mackenzies for the use of the yacht, the Illusions, LaPierre conceded, "I did not."
it's like,
Like,
I
apparently he offered.
mean, really, who would take friends' money for having friends on their yacht?
It gets better or worse.
I mean, you just it's so easy. You just gotta follow the ball.
Yeah, LaPierre testified on Wednesday that he also took a couple of trips on another yacht called the Grand Illusions. The fucking symbolism here. Stop.
I mean, boats having ridiculous pun names is a well-established thing, but
Yeah.
I know, but even for on the nose shit, this is on the nose.
And I thought my jokes about prawn scrub were bad. Were headache inducing.
Yeah.
Welcome to the corn.
Club
Welcome to the
was
corn.
way more on the point.
Yeah, corn club.
Yeah. And he acknowledged that the Mackenzies picked up the tab on his stay at an Atlantis resort.
Good lord.
Atlantis.
Wow.
None of this- Yeah. Before the COVID-19 era, LaPierre testified he flew out of Los Angeles to meet up with Mackenzie at Beverly Hills and staying at a hotel there to be paid for by the producer. The NRA's ex-longtime PR firm, Ackerman McQueen, picked up the tab for nearly $300,000 for LaPierre's Italian suits and Zenga in Beverly Hills, which LaPierre defended as an expenditure that the firm recommended for his television appearances.
Look,
So,
guys, he said in an on-the-record aside, I'm rich. Do you think I got that way by actually paying for shit?
Yeah. And opening statements also in the NRA bankruptcy proceedings on Monday brought another allegation into that LaPierre's wife had a glam squad tending to her on the NRA donor's dime. So,
Glam squad,
this is-
yeah. That's a term.
No ethical consumption under capitalism.
this is just a pure grift.
Yeah.
Talk about capitalism. This is just, yeah.
Drifting up
this
ass, okay?
this is bad.
I'm just saying this is where we are, you know.
I know, but I'm like, you should not expect ethical anything from this motherfucker.
Well, none.
Yeah. Anyway, the Russia thing. Gruber's questioning revealed that the Brewer law firm billed the NRA in an invoice charging $59,155.25 for a line item Russia in 2020.
Now,
Before
how
the
much is
charges
that when converted to rubles?
It makes the numbers seem bigger, you know.
Yeah, before the charges could be fully explained, an objection on the ground of confidentiality struck the matter from the court record, but it still got into the print. So, Russia agent Marina Butina's attempt to infiltrate the NRA led to a string of embarrassing headlines for the gun group during her prosecution and eventual deportation from the United States in 2019.
Oh my god.
So, yeah. This is where the NRA is at day 3. It's not going well.
Mm-mm.
So what are you saying? The dollar is the new dong?
If that helps you.
Get that Archer reference in there.
If that helps you.
So, we laugh, but I truly hope the NRA loses this and gets stripped of it every fucking penny.
Mm-hmm.
They deserve
Then,
it's
Yeah.
it's the least they deserve.
Yeah.
So, probably more on this next week.
Maybe.
But where
We
will
should
but where
probably
will
move to
yeah, but where will homosexuals get their information from if the NRA isn't there to, you know?
Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, or a lot of places.
guns and ammo. Like,
Yeah.
Field and
I
Stream.
don't. Yeah.
Not to be confused
Anyway.
with Field and Cream.
Get out.
Kevin's like, get out.
Anyway.
Kevin's like, get out.
But anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so I guess moving to the entertainment field, quite a bit going on here.
Mhm.
Let's see where to start. I suppose we should start with the fact that the cockroach of riffable media is back.
Yep.
Like, in case you missed the news, Mystery Science Theater 3000 is back with a new Kickstarter. Launched today. Like,
And as of the moment of recording, it is just a little under 400,000 away from its goal of $2 million.
right. Now, if you recall, this is not the first time that MSG3K has done a Kickstarter. It's been about 6 years since that one, where
Yes.
they made $4 million.
Yeah.
So the question that might beckon is, why are they doing a second Kickstarter? So,
Because
Okay,
the first
so-
one was successful enough to make them want to do more, but not successful
Well,
enough to fund more.
Netflix
No.
Netflix didn't decide to renew it past season 2 of the reboot.
Yes.
So now
Yes,
they so now Joel has to go. Joel is not willing to let this go, and he wants more. And since they won't give it to him, he has to go his own way.
yeah.
Although,
That's
I think, frankly, the fact that before the pandemic happened, if you remember, they had this big live tour that they were doing, and I think that live tour was probably a way to gauge the temperature of the fan base, as it were.
Right.
well.
At
That
this
seemed to
time-
like doing it.
Yeah,
Well,
that too. But I think more importantly, I think it was more a way to see if okay, I know for a fact that this Netflix thing has not gone well at all. Can I use this distribution system that they do have, because they do have this thing with Shout Factory here, which is a pretty strong distribution system, but they don't need necessarily a big fat network or a big fat service to align with here. Is
No,
this fan
no.
base strong enough to where we can basically do this stuff on our own? And
But
considering the fact that getting $2 million in a couple of hours, yes.
Okay, but that's also the other prong of this Kickstarter is to
Yes.
build a new venue called the Gizmoplex, because
Yes.
they want to incorporate the live show stuff into
Right.
the new MST3K.
Right. I mean, they want to do basically their own. They basically want to do the MST3K. They want to do that. They only can do without network interference. Let's
Right.
just say.
Right.
Yep.
Well, it's more network reliance. I don't think Netflix
Right.
interfered with their production. It's more, well, okay, MST3K and binge watching go together about as well as oil and water.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm in that-
it did not work. But
Right.
that second season, you kind of saw that the crew and the cast at the very least were at least gelling and starting to make it work. But it just, it didn't feel right.
well,
there
that's
was-
also because they're still.
Drivers, there was just the whole binge format thing.
Netflix does not have a great history going beyond season 2 of anything.
No,
Unless it's
that's-
really popular, like
Yeah.
Netflix feels it's usually better to start with a new series,
Yeah.
than go with a continuing one. That being said,
Yeah.
an hour and a half show just wasn't all that bingeable.
Yeah, hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on the length of the movie they're riffing.
Yeah.
And sometimes they had to actually cut things out of the movie, which probably is another reason why they're doing this, so that they can do, the full stuff without having to cut too much.
They really want it. Right. I would also say if they really wanted to, they could probably find a new streaming home with the network. Because, like HBO Max.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think there would be plenty of places for it, but at the same time, it's like, you don't want to rely on a place where they can easily cancel you within 5 seconds because you don't do what they want you to do.
Right, and that's I think is the main thrust here. They don't want to be beholden. Plus, they also feel that the revival's gone well enough that they can go on their own. Basically, versus
not just a reboot, but just the brand itself. I mean, the MST3K brand is one of the strongest brands and one of the longest lasting brands in all of entertainment, and it's for a reason. It's probably one of the most fan driven out of all of them. So it's like, if you want to kind of always go it alone.
Yeah, it's kind of always had to be because MST3K has always been a cult sensation. Let's be honest here. Like, it was a crown jewel of.
This was a show that started on not just a UHF station in Minneapolis, but a UHF station that just a couple of years prior was a subscription television channel. Meaning that people paid money to get a box to watch what was essentially HBO. Only on over-the-air television. And just a couple of years after that, this station, Channel 32 up there, became an independent station that was not even the strongest independent station in the market. So, this has been in every single facet possible. It's been on UHF TV. It's been on a cable network that then had to be merged with another cable network. It then moved it moved entirely to a different network with a different mindset and philosophy.
Saved by the fans, by the way.
Yeah,
exactly. Sci-Fi picked it up
because of Misty's. That's right.
I mean, they really don't. I gotta make one quick point here. I don't think they really need to find a streaming venue. I'm literally watching both Rift Tracks and MST3K right now on Twitch.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
They're already in bed with Bezos.
The South Factory ecosystem. It's not just on Twitch too. It's also on Pluto TV, Zumo. I think it's also on.
Aren't those right? Aren't those like subsidiaries of Amazon?
Yeah.
Now?
No. Pluto's a subsidiary of Viacom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Zumo,
right.
I don't remember. Right. I don't remember what Zumo is. I don't remember the company, but I know that that's a subsidiary of something.
Right.
Yeah.
And
they're also on YouTube.
Yeah. No, I don't. YouTube. That's not only YouTube. Only sparingly. It's mostly Pluto, Twitch, Zumo.
I'm talking about. They do have selected episodes there, and they do the Turkey TV thing there.
Yeah, it's the South Factory ecosystem. They have that, so they can easily decide to go, okay, we can use this distribution system here, and maybe make another ecosystem on the side here to pretty much do our own thing, and then maybe over time, maybe we could take this to HBO Max or something of that nature or down the line.
I just also register my important and well-informed opinion that every single streaming service / channel, whatever you just said, the name of and the last, however long, sounds entirely fake.
I would love to have enough content to be able to stream reruns indefinitely the way MST3K and Rift Tracks does right here on Twitch. The whole, like you said, the whole Shout TV model is fascinating to me. And as I've stated before, my intended goal was to create my own network on YouTube. If you remember, a while back, and it's like between the brand of Last Newsdesk and my animated shows and things like that, when I'm not live streaming, I would love to be able to have that kind of model. And it's like, so, you know, the idea that they need to shop, they've already got a home.
Yeah.
You know, all they need is new content in order to draw in new people.
Right. They want to have the content to themselves and to share it with the fans first, rather than, you know, take this project, take it to a network, then make it, and hopefully the network doesn't cancel you after 2-3 years.
Right.
You know. Because with this, with the way they want to do it with this, they could basically do all sorts of content, not just, you know, typical MST3K content, but also short form content, other forms of content as well, and basically keep it all under one roof and all in house.
They could build a show around they could build an entire show around the antics of the characters that
Right, exactly. I mean,
are the riffers.
right. I mean, I think Joel and them have a pretty good idea of what they want to do, and, you know, the pandemic has done a lot of things. It's also allowed them to basically go, okay, what do we want to do with this reboot here? Because it was going to be obvious that they were going to reboot this. Let's be fair here. They were always going to reboot this because, again, the brand is as strong as ever, the fan base is as strong as ever, and, you know, you have the pieces pretty much in place to where if you decide you want to do more, you could do more, and it's just a case of, you know, can you get the cast back in and there's any conflict with that, or do you have to recast, or so on and so forth, you know. But yeah, they're definitely guaranteed now to have money. I mean, that's not a question at this point. So it's basically a case of what they want to do, how they want to do it, and, you know, just get rolling with it, you know.
Yeah. So basically, MST3K will be fine.
Yeah. I mean, we all said that when it was canceled by Netflix. We all said that, you know, this is going to be fine. It's just a case of this thing did not work out. This thing ran its course. It's going to take maybe a couple years or so, but they'll get back to it in some way, in some form. Mm-hmm. And here we are.
Yeah, so, you know, it's a question of how much money they'll end up raising, because the more money they have, the more episodes they will be able to produce. No,
right. The first goal here was 2 million. That's the first goal at the very least, and they're definitely guaranteed to get that. If not at some point today, probably. It's now at 1.642 million, so yeah, they're well on their way. And it's just basically a case of how much they can get, and they basically, you know, they got 4 million last time. I'm pretty sure that they can get the 5 million that they can get for the whole big thing that they want to do. So.
Right. And I believe it's a month-long campaign.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, the month-long campaign is 2 million, so they're going to get 2 million in a day, so that tells you a lot.
Well, yeah. Misties are very dedicated people.
Yep.
You know. So.
I mean, obviously, if they're gonna get 2 million relatively quickly, considering that it only launched at 3:00 this afternoon, and.
Mm-hmm. This hard to say if this will raise more than their first one, but you know, the fan base doesn't feel burned.
They never do. That's the thing. I mean, if they would feel burned, it would be because of the Netflix format, really. And also because of some of the stuff involving that Netflix reboot that rubbed them off the wrong way, but I'm pretty sure that with...
I'm sorry, it was the way you phrased that.
But yeah, but it's, you know, too many writers, you know, the jokes were too fast and too frequent, so on and so forth, but... You know, by the second season, they pretty much understood that and were trying to fix things, but at that point, it's like, yeah, this Netflix thing ain't working. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but they're definitely going to get at least 3 episodes made. That's for sure. So,
I look forward to them.
Indeed.
Yep.
Yeah, Adam introduced me to the MST3K preservation project about 10 years ago, and that's how I was able to catch up because I didn't really have. We've had cable since the 80s, but
my the vast majority of my family hails from Minnesota, so obviously I was introduced to this at a very early age.
oh yeah.
Because this is definitely Minnesota's third great cultural export outside of Prince and the Peanuts gang. So,
Trust me, I watched Manos: The Hands of Fate first run. back on Sci-Fi Channel.
I think the first time I saw an MST3K actual episode was like a couple of years ago, a few years ago, probably. Yeah, I'd never really been super into it. I literally knew about like fan fiction MSTs where you like insert comments on another story way before I even knew that there was a show.
Oh, you mean riff tracks? No. Sorry.
Well, no, because it's written.
I was being.
No, what he's talking about is
riff tracks is fan fiction of MST. I got it.
Yeah, I was I was slipping in a little shade there.
I wouldn't say that honestly myself, but
nonetheless, I don't know. I have no real opinion on it one way or the other, but I got the joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, it's an interesting idea. It's just I don't know. I guess I didn't really get into it at an early age.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably wrap up for the week.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, now let's see. So we do have some news on the Up Late with Mace front. The Corn Club has approved my model application, so I can actually put the VODs of our prior broadcasts from Plexstorm up there, which means that we are this much closer to being able to do the Manga Gamer NSFW reviews, which will be I think a big boon overall to the enterprise. I've already started season 5 of Up Late with Mace, and so episode 1 debuted on Plexstorm on Tuesday at 9 Pacific, and it was actually a pretty successful show. I think it picked up a subscriber. So, yay. Unfortunately, I lost one here on Twitch, so boo.
It was the same person, actually.
They're like, well, if you're not going to talk about adult stuff over here, I don't want this. But that'll give us some nice crossover opportunities because, in recent years, of course, Fragments of Silicon has, shall we say, embraced the adult gaming community. More or less.
We're friends with Manga Gamer, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it would be the same as if you were interviewing representatives from, say, Newtaku or whatever. You'd have to, they do have a safe for work side of things, and you could talk about their shall we say, watered down versions of a lot of games. Tamer, that's it. That's a good word. Yeah. Tamer offerings. And it's interesting precisely how many of the games that they have, and plus, of course, you have all of the highly censored adult games over on Steam and stuff like that that can be covered. So this just gives us another opportunity to create content to appeal to a segment of the audience that is not allowed to be represented here or on YouTube. I mean, hell, even Markiplier's getting in the game with his Honey Pop reviews, and how he goes about actually making these videos advertiser friendly is hilarious, to put it mildly.
Oh yeah, creative censoring on the reviewers end can do a lot.
Well, there's a lot of humor to be mined from, pointing out that something is verboten.
So, I have no idea.
You know?
I have no idea.
I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And so, like I said, Plexstorm will give us an opportunity to play it straight, if you'll excuse the parlance. And it's kind of fun because I make no secret of the fact that, I have an alter ego and that a sizable portion of my entertainment empire is, shall we say, on the shadier side of things.
Yeah,
Mac, there's nothing about your ego that's alter.
It's front and center, baby.
Yeah, it's in the internet red light district, let's say.
Yeah, the internet red light district. Exactly.
Yeah.
We've talked on the show multiple times about Ship in a Bottle and Peppermint Saga and so on and so forth. Prawn with plot. And I'm not talking about
And shrimps sure have developed a lot of literary sophistication since last time I checked.
Indeed. I was going to say something about polishing crustaceans, but I think I'll leave that be.
Yeah, I think we've made the point very clear.
Indeed. But with the model agreement, that gives us a place, because Plexstorm does not actually store video on demand. So when I use the term VOD, if there's anybody on this network that does not know what that means at this point, I'd be surprised. But let's put it out there for the boomers, right? But yeah, they, for whatever reason, they did an update a couple of years ago and broke that ability. I think that was more an accidentally on purpose, wink, wink kind of thing, because they didn't want to be responsible for storehousing people's.
If it isn't stored, you can't prove that it happened, and therefore...
Yeah, well, and also they don't have to then worry about copyright strikes and DMCA takedowns and so on and so forth. So it kind of makes sense. So yeah, but
can't take it down if it's already gone.
Well, interestingly enough, though, there is a surprisingly large, shall we say, Let's Play community over at that place that shall not be named on Twitch.
So you have to record the stuff on your own computer, then?
Right, and I'm now pretty much set up for that. I've ordered the parts for a slightly newer, slightly more powerful machine. I've got a third generation i7 laying around, and I've got RAM and a video card. I'm getting a case, motherboard, power supply that match, and cooling fan that matches the equipment that I have. And I'm going to build that out, and that way I'll have a dedicated machine for that purpose. But right now the channel is pretty well dedicated to, gameplays of free-to-play stuff that's widely available out there. And, just offering fun commentary as the character of Mace Palladino. And I have really lived, it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen my little illustrated avatar for that guy, but he's quite the character. So I've got the bandana mask, I've got the dollar store sunglasses, I've got the sports ball hat. The whole 9 yards. So it's going to be really fun, and my hope is to actually be able to interview industry professionals and developers and stuff like that in the future, and make it more of a thing than just a one-off with Manga Gamer. Yep. But getting that model agreement solidified so that I can upload content was a significant first step, and now we are there, and now I have a place to share our offerings with my fans. And then back on the Safe for Work side of things, I have started gaming on Facebook. Facebook gaming is a thriving community with literally tens of millions of people viewing it. I literally watched an entire channel of a guy running around with a GTA 5 mod, just mugging the shit out of pedestrians for tips. 4.5 hours of this guy running through San Andreas, just kicking the shit out of people for money.
So typical Tuesday.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so I started a little mini series called APB Behaving Badly. where I play the game APB Reloaded and just run around gunning down people in the city of San Paro. Getting into a car, driving on the sidewalk until the enforcers witness me, mowing down pedestrians and finally decide to arrest me. There's pretty much no way to avoid player versus player in that game. Even if you're not ready, if you commit a crime in front of an enforcer, they can witness you. And if they choose to do so, it was kind of funny because I had a situation to where I ran across a gold while I was mugging some dude, and I literally just let go of the pedestrian. And we just stood there staring at each other for a moment, and then all of a sudden the sound effect came up, and I had to run 300 meters to the target and drop off my ill-gotten gains. So yeah, so if you want to see me just behaving badly in the city of San Paro, causing chaos and mayhem and trolling other players, follow my Facebook channel. It is like my Twitch channel. It is called Mac Paladin's Retro Gaming Emporium on Facebook. Basically, if you go to facebook.com/Micaiah Paladin, you can find my channel there and watch me goofing off. Or you can watch my Genshin Impact two-hour play where they muted 25 minutes of my audio for content IDs.
Yeah.
Based on what? Background music?
Yep. Apparently MiHoYo has decided to register the background music specifically from Genshin Impact because they've become a thing. Which I don't normally have this problem on Twitch and YouTube, so it's interesting to see exactly what Facebook considers to be a content ID. But yeah, pretty much anytime...
That could be a differential.
Yeah.
But I think Facebook gaming is more popular in Asia.
Yeah.
That could be a thing, and that may be why I got such a significant... So what I'm going to be doing, per my announcement on my page, I will be doing... If I play Genshin Impact again, I will be doing silent Genshin Impact, which is where I turn all of the background music off and leave on the voice and sound effects.
And then also mute yourself, and then...
Yeah, and then my channel will be wildly popular because no one will have to hear my annoying voice. Thank you. Thank you for that.
ASMR.
So no, I was thinking you would still say stuff, but then have Variah sit next to you and after you say something, she transcribes it and puts up a splash screen with what you said on it.
Look. I'm not making money off of the Horn Pub just yet. So I don't. Do you have any idea how much an ASMR rig costs?
More than
it's more than I would spend on it, I'm sure.
I can almost guarantee you that no one wants to hear me licking an ear.
Well then.
I can virtually guarantee you that. As soon as I say that, there's going to be somebody in my DMs right now. Within 5 seconds going, I'll pay for it!
Yeah.
How much you need? I'll give you double.
Oh, God. It's like, Mac, I will pay you for that just to embarrass you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole other subset. But that's a discussion for another episode.
Jeez.
Follow my weight loss tips on OnlyClams.
I think we should maybe close on that.
Call it a day.
Call it a night, yeah.
Indeed. All right. Well, like I said, guys, we got one more episode left of this season, then we'll be taking a short break. But do follow us next week, because I'm sure something will happen. And of course, tomorrow I will be streaming Honkai Impact, and Friday and Saturday, Varias and I will be alternating on YouTube. So, probably going back to APB on Saturdays, since Overwatch has been kind of a bust, which is shocking on several levels. But yeah, we got a big week planned, so be sure to tune in next time, and until then, I'm your host, Mac Paladin, saying thanks for listening, and stay safe out there, kids.
Get vaxxed and stay masked, kids.